Thank you, everybody. The mic is working. Wow, it's so great to see you. Thank you for showing up today. And thank you for being out there in virtual land. Hi, Todd, and whoever else is out there. I can't believe how many emotions I've already experienced, even before starting this talk. Whoa. My heart feels partly broken open from the news that Reverend shared. And I was so excited before I heard that news to just be here with you all today. And so there's that beautiful gratitude I feel for being a human being, being able to feel all these feelings. And it's so miraculous to me to watch the music and the things that have been said already and how perfectly they go with this talk that I'm going to share with you today. So today we'll be continuing our theme of home and the hero's journey. And as I was preparing my talk and getting ready to come down from Oregon, where I thought it was going to be warmer. But my thumb is actually numb from being so cold this morning, and I had to scrape the ice off the windshield to get here. But it feels very warm here in this building with you right here, right now. So thank you. Thank you for your warmth, your love. Thank you for loaning your jacket. And as I was getting ready to come down, thinking about Thanksgiving, I remembered that the holidays are a really hard time for a lot of us. And it has to do with part of this thing of the traumas that we may have experienced in our childhoods, in those places that we called home, that were our families of origin, that were supposed to be safe spaces for us, and they weren't always that way. So I want to just be mindful that some of us today might be feeling those hurts from our childhood and still healing from them. And one of the great things about being in this spiritual community is that we can offer support to one another as we continue healing from our childhood wounds, and also support ourselves while we're going through hard times. Feeling safe to just show up in all of our messiness, right? So a spiritual community like this, like Sierra Center for Spiritual Living, can feel like home for us. It can be a place that feels a constant when our world might be falling apart. And I want you to know that I've healed from some of my deepest wounds right here in this spiritual community. By going to classes, by participating in groups, by being able to be of service, facilitating groups. So if you feel like you're one of us that may still have some more healing to do, I encourage you to come to classes, come to groups, come to, share in community and have fun. It's part of our healing journey. There's an ACEs, which stands for Adverse Childhood Experience Scoring System, that is actually used to determine the amount of pain and suffering that a person will feel, depending on the score that they get through this test. And there's a direct relationship between the suffering and pain that a person will go through according to the score that they get. So the higher the score, the more pain and suffering. So researchers were in fact shocked to find a direct link between childhood trauma, obesity, mental illness, incarceration, workplace issues, and the onset of a wide variety of chronic diseases. And one of the founding researchers of the ACEs study, Robert Anda, he said, "I wept. I saw how much people had suffered, and I wept." I'm kind of feeling that suffering today. And so I want to share a quote from our founder, Ernest Holmes. And I've updated pronouns. He writes in Living Without Fear, page 40. There is this question, however, which naturally arises. Why all the suffering, sorrow, and pain? Why has tragedy accompanied the journey of humans? Again, our imagination may answer this question in a somewhat plausible manner. There is no other way through which true individuality can evolve. Humans must be let alone to discover themselves, else be compelled arbitrarily to follow one road, in which case they would be an automaton and not an individual. So it is through our challenges, our traumas, and unique experiences in life that we can come to an understanding of who we are. These things shape us and our worldview. They mold us into unique individualizations of spirit in the flesh. It's as if we are sculpted by life itself, formed by the Creator, molded by our potter's hands, finished by fire in the kiln of life. We become beautiful works of art with all of our blemishes and imperfections in a myriad of colors, shapes, and sizes. How wonderful to live in a world full of such diversity. On the ACEs scale, gratefully, I scored low. I had a pretty wonderful childhood, and yet there were a couple of traumas that occurred before I left home. One that ousted me out of the nest and my spiritual community and led me into my initiation phase of the hero's journey. The initiation into my hero's journey took me on a 10-year path from the late 70s through the late 80s. I remember this time being described as a time of sex, drugs, and rock and roll. And in many of our cases, there was a whole lot of disco dancing, too. Some of you in this room, I was there with you doing the disco dancing. I tested the boundaries of my youth, and I experienced extreme states of joy and extreme states of sadness. These experiences were facilitated by an alcohol addiction, which, as we know, alcohol is a depressant. So after years of this behavior, there began to be more and more depressive times than joyful times. Until finally, one dreary winter day, after literally 28 days of seeing no sunshine, and feeling like life was no longer worth living, I felt sick and tired of feeling sick and tired, and I decided to end my life. I remember writing the goodbye letter. But I don't remember the ambulance ride to the hospital. I remember waking up to a nurse having me drink something. And I remember someone coming in and asking me some questions. But there was no one there for me to be my ally or friend, to give me any kind of hope, to think that my life could or would get better. And whatever questions were asked of me, I passed the test, and I was released to go back home. I was about 26 at this time. And looking back, I realized that I really could have used a little extra help. And gratefully, it was not my time to leave the planet. Right? I think God had another plan for my life. So in today's discussion of home, home stands for healing opportunities manifest everywhere. And because home is where the heart is, home has often been a place that comes with bruised hearts and broken hearts. These experiences can follow us into our adulthood and affect our current relationships. For many of us, the mere thought of returning home brings up memories and emotions of sadness, shame, anxiety, and grief, or even anger. Visiting home can remind us of loved ones who have passed on, or the dysfunction of our family dynamics can feel uncomfortable or toxic. Healing opportunities manifest everywhere. And for some of us, that may look like 12-step programs, peer support, spiritual community, or therapy. For me, it has been a combination of all of these things, and always accompanied the work necessary to heal through the trauma, from the trauma, to get to that place of healing that my heart was longing for. For some of us, we may choose not to do the work this lifetime, and that's okay too. We're each on our own unique paths. What I found necessary on my healing journey was that I needed someone to believe in me and see my worth, so I could learn to begin to love myself enough to have the motivation to move forward in my recovery process. I was suffering from low self-esteem. I did not yet know the truth of who I am. I feel so grateful to live from a belief system that teaches us that everything we need and more already exists within and all around us to support us on our journey. How wonderful it is to live from a belief system that life is always conspiring for my good. In our philosophy, to sin means to miss the mark. And there is no God outside of us that is punishing us for missing the mark, but a loving Creator always available within us to support us on our hero's journey by bringing every circumstance and opportunity needed for our highest spiritual healing and evolution. It is God's good pleasure to have given us the kingdom, and that kingdom is within us. We are not separate from it. We are living in God's life as individualized expressions of spirit. How blessed I am to have been given the opportunity to continue to live those many years ago. I invite us to remember that although our heroes' journeys may be different, the commonality we all share is that we experience pain to some degree or another. We may choose to learn from our experiences, empower ourselves, and make choices that lead to greater outcomes for our lives. At some point, we may choose not to play the role of victim anymore. We can gain wisdom, love, and compassion, and in turn give back to others as a result of our hero's journey. Later on in life, I experienced a series of traumas in a short amount of time. And I was having extreme mood swings. I could barely function, actually. I knew that I needed to reach out for help or I may not live through the experience. So I reached out for prayer. I reached out to friends for support. I dialed 911 and I got a psychiatrist. I was diagnosed and given medication that I believe helped save my life. And I began to heal from my mental health issues. When we see humans suffering with mental illness, instead of asking what's wrong, the better question to ask is, what happened? Not what's wrong with them. What happened to them? I continued to serve this spiritual community and continued to heal. After about a year had passed, I found myself overhearing someone at a 12-step meeting afterwards saying, Spirit Peer Empowerment Center is hiring crisis peer counselors. Well, I had never even heard of Spirit Peer Empowerment Center, and I didn't know what a crisis peer counselor was, but something drew me to find out more about that, and I applied, and in 2013 I was hired as a crisis peer counselor. Here I found a community support, right here in our community, that I didn't even know existed, that was extremely instrumental for me in healing from my mental health challenges. I was not only offered a job, but the requirements for being hired were that I was a person with lived experience of addiction and mental health challenges. Talk about validating. I couldn't believe somebody was hiring me because I had gone through addiction and mental health challenges. Well, of course, also, they were hiring me because of the work I'd done on myself and the place I was in my recovery. And they recognized that I could give back. So I got some great peer support training and went to work. Now imagine this. There I am at Sierra Nevada Memorial Hospital, sitting at the bedside of someone who was there in the emergency department because their life had become so painful that they had decided to try to end their life. Imagine the gratitude that I felt when I realized that God spared my life so that I could be right there in that place, supporting that person in that moment.
Hallelujah.
I was in 2013, so I don't know, I'm almost 64. Imagine, though, really, the look on the person's face when I got to share with them that I had been in a similar situation. And although there was no one there for me, I was so grateful to be able to be there for them. And imagine the look on their face when suddenly the light bulb went on and they realized that I was someone that could possibly understand what they're going through. And then imagine their opening up to me and sharing their pain and their sadness and thanking me for listening and for being there for them. And imagine what a beautiful sight it was to see this glimmer of hope in their eyes when a few moments earlier there had been none. And then imagine the next day when I'm standing outside of Spirit Peer Empowerment Center and somebody gets out of the taxi, and it was that person who I had been supporting the day before. And they got out and they saw me and they came up to me and said, "Thank you. You've helped save my life." How beautiful our heroes' journeys can be when we realize that what has occurred in our lives was all on purpose. That the pain and suffering we go through may be there to bring us to the place of surrender. To the place where we can turn our lives and our will over to a higher power in order for us to become the willing vessels to fulfill our purpose. Every one of us can be at home wherever we are in life. Healing opportunities manifest everywhere. I invite you to take the opportunity, if you haven't already, to view your past with eyes that see through the challenges and the traumas to the gifts that were given. To feel from a heart overflowing gratitude for every single thing that has come your way on your hero's journey. I invite you to look for opportunities to be of service and to give back from your life experience. To be with people who could benefit from your hero's journey. Centers for Spiritual Living's purpose is to awaken humanity to its spiritual magnificence. I invite you to not only see yourself as a magnificent spiritual being having a human experience, but to know yourself as such. For this is the truth of who you are. As the Master Teacher Jesus is quoted as saying, "Know ye not that ye are gods?" And to anchor this truth in our bodies, I'm going to invite us to participate in a physical exercise if you so choose, no pressure. And I'm going to describe it. I'm going to show you what it looks like, and then I'll invite us to do the exercise together 3 times, okay? So this is what I'm going to do. I'm going to ask you in a moment to rise up out of your chairs, put your arms up and look to the heavens, saying, "I am a magnificent spiritual being having a human experience." And then pat ourselves on the back and say, "It isn't easy being human." And then call yourself by your name, put your arms around yourself in loving embrace and say, "I love you, Julia." Okay? So we're going to do that 3 times together. So I invite you to rise up out of your chairs, put your arms into the air, look to the heavens, and say, "I am a magnificent spiritual being having a human experience. It's not easy being human. I love you." Again, "I am a magnificent spiritual being having a human experience. It's not easy being human. I love you." One more time. "I am a magnificent spiritual being having a human experience. It's not easy being human. I love you, Jeremy." Great. Awesome. All right. Sit down. Everybody sit down. That was beautiful. So I just want you to notice what your energy level is feeling like after doing the exercise. Right? Because what we've just done is we've elevated our consciousness and vibration by aligning with the truth of who we actually are. And by speaking the word into this room out loud. Our word has power. It is the power of God within us that can not only bring mountains to us that we need to climb, but it can move the mountains out of the way on our journey too. When we recognize that we've been there, done that, don't need to do it again. We can use the power of our word to speak into existence in our life through prayer and affirmations, something gentler on our journey this time. I want you to notice if you had any resistance within yourself to fully feel the truth that we spoke about ourselves as we were doing that exercise. I invite you to continue your healing journey. Do whatever you need to do to be able to fully embody this truth. To shine your light in this world and offer your gifts to humanity in a way that only you can. Reach out to a practitioner if you feel that would support you, or join us in classes. Come have fun, because healing happens in relationships and community. Humanity needs us now more than ever to wake up to our spiritual magnificence. And we need each other to remind us of the truth of our oneness, which is the absolute truth of this thing called life. There is only one, and we are in it. We are it in form. Each of us is a unique expression of spirit, created by it, from it. We must necessarily be like it. So in closing, I bless each and every one of us on our heroes' journeys with great thanksgiving, wonder, and awe. I thank God for everything, knowing that healing opportunities manifest everywhere. I believe this experience of life is unfolding on purpose for each of us. And I choose to see the perfection in it as exactly what is needed to awaken us to our spiritual magnificence and to feel connected to something greater than ourselves, to discover our purpose that not only blesses our life, but blesses the lives of others. For, dear ones, we may appear separate, but we are not. And what we give to one another blesses the whole of life itself. As the Master Teacher said, do unto others as you would have done unto you, because we are one. Whatever we think, say, or do, we are doing to ourselves. So bless one another. Bless everything, and you shall be blessed beyond measure. This is the law. And so I claim this as our truth and let my word go into that law that has already said yes to these blessings and many, many more. I let it be so as I invite us to say together. And so it is. Amen. Hallelujah.